All right, Module 2, Lesson 12. In this lesson, we're going to start by examining a map of the Western Front from 1914. This map provides you a foundation for your examination of trench warfare. And then you're going to read an informed article in your orange spiral book to give you a historical overview of the conditions and effects of trench warfare. And then hopefully through an activity that I've got for you, you'll be able to visualize and truly understand what being in that trench and on the front is really like in regards to how close enemies were, and not just and not just in the fighting, but what all also went on when they weren't fighting. So we're going to start by you viewing this map. I'm going to click on it in a second, but there's 3 questions I want you to answer when you're viewing the map, and you can just put these in your notebook. There, what countries can you identify? What do you think the lines represent? And you're going to see a bunch of lines. And then what else do you notice beyond just those couple of things? So our map is this. So when you're looking at it again, what countries can you identify? What do you think the lines represent? And as you can see, there's a bunch. You've got black, you've got red, blue, a light blue. I think that's about all you've got right there. And then is there anything else that you notice in this map? Hopefully you could see countries like France, Germany, Belgium, and even England. So if you couldn't see it, here's the names: Germany, Belgium, England's over here across the pond, and then France. So it looks like France and Germany are your biggest ones. Belgium, this little itty bitty one right here. You should see the water that separates England, France and Germany, so close together, right? And then the lines, you got lines that go everywhere, right? You got these little blue, which these should be little rivers, right? I'm not sure what this line is. Could be country border, not 100% sure. No, wait a minute. This could be country border, the black ones. These probably represent trenches, where the trenches were located. So they do look pretty close together, don't they? And then obviously if you've never looked at a key, I want you to, while you're looking at this, what do you think, right here it says stabilization of the front. What do you think stabilization of the front means? The stabilization means to be firm, steady, or stable. What do you think stabilization of the front might be? And then kind of already talked about what we think, where we think the trenches were located. All right, so in your orange spiral book, I want you to look at handout 12A. It's Fighting from the Trenches. Read the article, annotate it, mark it up, underline anything that you think is important. But as you're going through, I want you to make note of what you notice and wonder about life on the front during World War I. And then I've got a few other questions I have for you in regards to this article. Now that you've read it, I want you to reread paragraphs 1 through 3, or look through paragraphs 1 through 3, and then answer this question in your notebook as well. So how does the handout 12A, Fighting from the Trenches, establish the scale of the front during World War I? And if you don't know what scale means, it's the size or extent of something, especially in comparison to something else. So when you're looking at fighting from the trenches, how does that truly show or give us an idea of how big or intense or important is the fighting on the front. Reread paragraphs 4 through 7 for this question. How were soldiers protected in the trenches? And then 8 through 12, I've got 3 of them for you. What were the effects of trench warfare on the soldiers who fought in World War I? What were the features of no man's land? So look at paragraph 10 for this. Features would be the characteristics, what did it pertain, what did it have, that kind of thing. And then your last question, what were the larger effects of trench warfare? And according to the article, was this an effective way to fight a war? So what's the bigger picture? What are the bigger effects? And those could be positive or negative, probably more on the lines of negative. And then according to the article, was trench warfare an effective way to fight? All right, for this activity, you're going to end up needing a blank piece of paper, and I've got it for you, a blank piece of white paper. But I couldn't find my masking tape, so if you look at the room, you're going to see a marking with my Post-it notes to give you an idea of the distance between trenches. So let's say that we were in a war with somebody else. Let's say we are at war at Miss Norman since she's across the hall, right? Seems pretty close already since she's across the hall. But if you look at my Post-it notes and you see how far trenches really were, and this is the legit measurement, 3 yards. 3 yards is all it was between 2 trenches. I want you to kind of think about like knowing that distance and seeing it visualized, how I've got it up there on at least the post just to show you the distance. What would it be like to have an enemy on the other side of no man's land? How insane is it that you were that close? And then how do you think that distance, knowing that they're only that far apart, how would that affect a soldier's experience at the war? I mean, at the front. I mean, you've already dodging bullets and bombs, and to know that your enemy, aka in our case, our example, Miss Norman, is that close. All right, so hopefully you have your blank piece of paper. You're going to, based on the details of the article, and even looking at our distance from via the Post-it notes on the front of our room, I want you to create a visual diagram. So you're going to draw a diagram of the trenches. So based on the information from the article and your understanding of what it would be like, want you to like visually represent this on a piece of paper. So what kind of details would you include? I gave a couple examples, but there's plenty of examples. Some trenches were close enough that enemies could talk. So when you're drawing, would that be something that you would include? How close they were and where our guys were and that they could talk. They could be wide, they could be narrow. I mean, it just depends on what the purpose of that part of the trench was and who was in it. Maybe you would include landmines and barbed wires, because you don't want to keep your guy from coming over the other side, or if they started to escape, or not to escape, but started to encroach in on your trench and you weren't paying attention, or that was in the middle of the night and a bomb goes off, well, it's because you set a trap, right? Maybe they're more cave-like or have trapdoors. Those are things that come for your article, so it's up to you. But after you draw your trench diagram, I want you at the bottom to write a 1-sentence caption, meaning it's just a 1 sentence that explains your picture of your diagram. And that I want you to not only kind of explain your picture or diagram in 1 sentence, but basically give me an idea off of